The Morrison family reunion was in full swing, laughter and music filling the backyard. But all of it stopped when Charlotte's voice cut through.
You need to leave. This is a family event, not a shelter for the homeless.
Every head turned toward the old man in the worn plaid shirt. Jack Morrison, the grandfather, frozen in the middle of the lawn.
Stay out of the family photos. I won't have you embarrassing us.
She thinks I am a stranger. My own grandson's wife.
Jack stepped back without a word, his shoulders dropping as the family squeezed together for the picture without him.
Maybe next time he'll get the hint and not show up at all.
Charlotte, that's my grandfather.
Jack walked to the farthest table and sat alone, his eyes fixed on the empty plate in front of him.
I built this family, and they don't even remember.
The afternoon wore on. Music played, children ran, but Jack remained fixed at the corner table like a forgotten piece of furniture.
I don't care if he is your grandfather, Michael. He looks like a homeless drifter.
Homeless. The words stung worse than any hammer blow.
Hey, who invited the old hobo? Is he part of the entertainment?
50 years of building their world, and this was my reward.
Evelyn glanced at her father, a flicker of guilt crossing her face. She walked to the buffet table. She returned with a plate of fried chicken and coleslaw, her smile strained as she approached.
Dad, here, I brought you some food. You must be hungry.
Thank you, Evelyn, that's kind of you. Even her kindness felt like a dismissal, a plate of food to ease a guilty conscience.
The laughter at the center of the reunion felt a world away. Jack stood slowly, his old knees aching, and shuffled toward a weathered bench by the garden shed.
Helen, you would have hated this. You always said family was everything. If only you were still here. They might remember then.
Inside the house, away from the noise, 16-year-old Lily searched the storage room for a phone charger.
What's this? Looks like something from 100 years ago.
She lifted the lid, releasing the scent of old paper and time. Inside lay stacks of photo albums. A loose photograph slipped from between the pages. A young man with a hammer standing before a wooden frame.
Is that Grandpa? He looked so strong.
The young man in the picture had Jack's same gentle eyes, but there was a fire in them she'd never seen.
This doesn't match what everyone says. I need to show this to Mom.
Clutching the heavy album, Lily hurried out of the house and into the crowded backyard, searching for her mother.
Mom, look what I found in the storage room. Old pictures of Grandpa.
Evelyn turned, surprised, but before she could take the album, Charlotte's voice cut through the chatter.
Put that away, Lily. We don't need to clutter the party with ancient junk.
Hold on, Charlotte. I want to see what's in there.
Michael stepped forward, but Charlotte snatched the album from Lily and tossed it onto a nearby table.
What's this? A history lesson? Lighten up, it's a party.
Across the yard, Jack sat on the old bench, his eyes fixed on that album as if it held his entire life.
Helen's albums, the ones she kept safe, they've found them.
The album sat on the table, unopened, but the air around it was charged with unspoken questions.
All right, let's see what's in this ancient artifact. I need a good laugh.
Lily leaned in and opened the album to the first page, her breath caught in her throat. A young man with rolled-up sleeves poured concrete into a wooden frame. Below, it read, "Our first home, 1972.
Wait, I remember that house. That's the old place on Elm Street. Dad built that?
Well, it is him. Never knew he could swing a hammer.
That could be anyone. 100 men built houses back then. It doesn't prove anything.
No, Charlotte. Look at the eyes. It's Grandpa. I'd know him anywhere.
From the old bench by the shed, Jack watched the family hover around his past, his heart slamming against his ribs.
They can't deny what's right in front of them. Not this time.
But as the silence stretched, Charlotte's jaw tightened, and the weight of unspoken history pressed down on everyone.
It's probably just a hired hand. My grandfather-in-law wasn't some construction worker.
Yeah, maybe Jack just posed for the camera. You know, old family joke.
Then what about this one? With the truck that says Morrison Hardware.
For the young man was unmistakably Jack, one arm on the truck with Morrison Hardware on the door.
That's That's the store Dad ran. I remember helping him stock shelves when I was a girl.
So he built the house and the business. Why didn't we ever talk about this?
He could have planted these photos years ago to make himself look like some hero.
Stop it, Charlotte. Grandpa didn't plant anything. These have been in our attic for decades.
From the bench, Jack heard every cruel word. His hands began to tremble.
She'd rather poison their minds against me than admit she was wrong.
Jack rose from the bench. His old knees ached, but his shoulders squared with a quiet authority that silenced the garden. The chatter died as he walked toward the table, his worn shoes soundless on the grass. All eyes turned.
May I?
Of course, Grandpa.
Jack took the album, his fingers tracing the worn cover, before opening it with the care of a man touching his own history. He turned the pages, silent, until he laid it flat on a photograph of himself, young, muscular, hoisting a thick wooden beam.
That's the main beam of this house. Evelyn, you were in the yard playing with your dolls that day?
Dad, I'd forgotten. How could I have forgotten?
Charlotte's face went pale. For once, her sharp tongue had no retort. The weight of the beam in the photo seemed to press down on everyone, filling the silence with years of unacknowledged sacrifice.
Frank leaned closer, squinting at the photo. Then his face went slack. That's the sunroom right here. You built it by yourself, didn't you, Jack?
The realization hit him like a cold wave. All those jokes he'd made felt like ashes in his mouth.
Someone had to. The family needed more space.
All these years, and I never knew. He built the roof over my head.
So he built a room. That doesn't erase what he's become now.
It changes everything, Charlotte. We've been blind for too long.
The family exchanged glances, uncertainty crumbling into a shared, uncomfortable awareness.
Let them see. Let them remember what they chose to forget.
He left us behind years ago. Being a builder doesn't make him a grandfather.
But no one nodded. The photos had become an unbreakable bridge between the past and the silent man before them.
I remember now. You sold Morrison Hardware to pay for my college tuition. All those years, I never said thank you.
Her tears fell onto the album page, smudging the ink of a past they'd all buried.
It was never about thanks, Evie. It was about giving you a future.
He gave her everything, and I couldn't even give him a seat at the table.
That was a long time ago. Sentiment doesn't change.
But her words died as the family stared, their silence a wall she couldn't breach.
Dad sacrificed his dreams so I could have mine. And I let everyone forget.
You didn't forget. You just stopped looking.
Charlotte stood rigid, her fingers gripping the edge of the table, her world tilting. The album lay open, its black and white images holding more color than the entire reunion. Lily turned one more page, and the room seemed to hold its breath. The photo that lay there stopped her cold.
Grandpa, this is your wedding day with Grandma Helen.
The black and white image showed a younger Jack in a suit, Helen in a simple white dress, and behind them, the very house they all now stood in.
That's our house, right there in the background. He built it before he even married Mom.
I promised Helen a home. That was the first one I built for her.
The family stared at the image, the house they'd grown up in, the grandfather they'd forgotten, and the grandmother they'd forgotten, and the grandmother they'd lost. Charlotte's face went chalk white, her fingers uncurled from the table, and for a long moment, she was utterly mute. Nobody spoke. The truth of the photograph was a verdict none of them could appeal.
All these years, and they only needed to look.
The album sat between them, a silent judge, as the evening air grew cold with the weight of things left unsaid. Lily turned the album over, and from inside the back cover, a stack of yellowed letters slipped onto the table. The handwriting was Jack's, each envelope dated decades ago, the ink faded but legible.
Dad, these are letters to Mom. You wrote them while you were working.
I wrote to her every night I was away. She kept them all.
Evelyn picked up one letter, her hands trembling, and began to read aloud. "Dearest Helen, I skipped lunch again today. But it'll be worth it. The money we saved will buy the children's winter coats. Tell them their father loves them.
You starved so we could stay warm?
A small price for my children.
The family wept openly, the letters exposing a depth of sacrifice they had never imagined. Charlotte stood mute, the weight of her earlier words pressing down on her like a physical force.
Grandpa, why didn't you ever say anything? All these years, we never knew.
You never asked.
The words hung in the air, a simple truth that cut deeper than any confession. And for a long moment, no one could breathe.
This is sentimental nonsense. None of this changes the fact that he never tried to be part of our lives.
It does matter. It matters more than anything I have ever heard. How could I have been so blind? He built everything we have, and I stood by while she called him homeless.
He stepped back from Charlotte, his face twisted with shame, and avoided her gaze.
He abandoned us, Michael. A few letters don't erase the years of silence.
I was never the one who left. I was here building, waiting, hoping.
The family looked at Charlotte, then back at Jack. Michael stood beside his grandfather, leaving Charlotte alone on the other side of the table.
Well, at least you aren't actually homeless, right, Jack?
The laughter died before it began, swallowed by a silence so heavy it crushed the air from their lungs.
Why would he be homeless?
Every head turned slowly toward Charlotte, the unspoken answer hanging in the air like a storm cloud. Charlotte's mouth opened, but no sound came. Her eyes darted desperately, searching for an escape that didn't exist.
She thinks I am homeless. It was never about the house.
Jack looked down at his hands, his lips pressed thin, but not a single word escaped him.
That's what Charlotte called him, right in front of us.
Michael's face went pale, his jaw tightening with dawning horror as the cruel connection snapped into place. The family's stares were a cage of ice. Charlotte took a step back, trembling, but there was nowhere to hide. Jack rose from the table. The old wood creaked as he straightened his back, and every eye in the garden moved with him.
I want to tell you a story, not for pity, but so you know where you come from.
He spoke of laying bricks after 10-hour shifts, calluses that never healed, the day he mortgaged the store to keep a roof over their heads. He talked of Helen, of her smile when the first wall went up, of how she believed they were building more than a house.
I worked 3 jobs so your mother could stay home with you. Evelyn, I never regretted a single missed meal.
Daddy, we didn't know.
Evelyn buried her face in her hands. Frank's shoulders shook. Michael looked away, his throat tight. Charlotte stood frozen, her defiance crumbling into dust, as each word built a monument to the man she had dismissed.
I never asked for a place in your photos. I only wanted a place in your memory.
The family wept, their tears wetting the old album pages, but Jack remained dry-eyed, his quiet strength an unanswerable rebuke. Jack picked up the album and turned to a photograph of a young man pouring concrete into a wooden frame.
Do any of you know who laid this foundation?
The family looked from the photo to each other, shaking their heads in bewildered silence.
I did, right here on this very ground, before any of you were born.
He let the silence stretch, then turned to face Charlotte, his gaze like a leveling beam.
Now who's homeless?
Charlotte's mouth opened, but only a strangled gasp escaped.
He remembered every cruel word.
The family watched, their breath held, as Charlotte began to crumble under the weight of her own words. The album lay between them, its pages a monument to the man they'd forgotten, and the woman who had tried to erase him.
I didn't know. I thought he was just some homeless old man, Michael. How was I supposed to know?
The excuse hung in the air, flimsier than the letters she had mocked.
He's my grandfather, and you humiliated him.
Michael's voice cracked as he finally named the cruelty Charlotte had tried to bury.
My grandson, finally seeing clearly.
They're all against me now.
Charlotte looked from face to face, finding only cold eyes and pursed lips. She had become the outsider she accused Jack of being.
You tried to erase a man who built everything we have.
One by one, the family edged closer to Jack, forming a loose protective circle around the album and the old man. Charlotte stood alone, her designer dress suddenly looking cheap against the weight of her disgrace. Evelyn pushed through the cluster and wrapped her arms around her father, sobbing an apology into his worn shoulder.
Daddy, I am so sorry. We forgot who you really are.
It's all right, Evie. You are here now.
I should have known better. All those jokes. I am sorry, Jack.
These photos prove what you won't say, Grandpa. You built everything.
The family nodded, their silence now filled with the weight of gratitude they had never expressed.
Finally, they see. Not the old man in a worn shirt, but the builder of their lives.
Charlotte lingered at the edge, arms wrapped around herself, watching the family reclaim a history she had tried to erase.
They've made me the outcast.
The night pressed on, but inside that circle, a small healing had begun. Though the deepest wound still lay open, Lily lifted the album and began passing photographs around the hushed circle, each image a hammer blow to the ignorance they had worn like armor. Frank stared at a photo of a young Jack hammering together a small schoolhouse, the sign Morrison School hanging proudly in the sun.
He built the school my kids attended. I never knew. I am so sorry, Jack.
Evelyn's hand shook as she saw her father, grease-smeared and smiling, under the hood of the old family sedan.
Dad, you fixed our car every weekend. We never even noticed. I am so sorry.
Then, a faded snapshot of Jack holding a baby Michael, his rough hands gentle around the infant.
He held me when I was born, and I let Charlotte humiliate him in front of everyone.
Every picture is a piece of a man we erased, and now we can't look away.
Charlotte edged toward the gate, her designer heels silent on the grass, but Michael's shadow fell across her path, blocking her escape.
You don't get to run away from the truth.
Charlotte turned slowly, her eyes rimmed red, and the weight of the photos seemed to physically push her shoulders down.
I was jealous. Michael talked about you like you were some legend, and I felt like I didn't matter.
The confession dripped with a pathetic honesty. Stripped of her usual designer armor,
I wanted to put him in his place. I never thought he was actually this.
no one moved. The silence was a verdict, and Charlotte was guilty.
You humiliated him because you were jealous of the love I have for my own grandfather.
How dare you?
I've never heard anything so selfish.
She broke herself trying to break me.
Charlotte sank onto a bench, her face buried in her hands, her designer dress a wet ruin. No one went to her. Jack rose slowly from the table, his hand resting on the torn album cover as if saying a silent goodbye.
I never wanted gratitude. I only ever wanted to be remembered as family.
The words settled over them, heavy with decades of unspoken years.
Charlotte, you owe me nothing. But to this family, you owe the truth.
She looked up, eyes swollen, but no words came. The truth had already been spoken.
The truth of who they came from, and what it cost.
He closed the album with a soft thud and pushed it to the center of the table.
Take care of each other.
He turned toward the gate, his worn shoes silent on the grass. The family stood frozen, the album a silent sentinel between them and the man they had failed to see. Jack's silhouette moved slowly toward the wooden gate, his head high, his worn plaid shirt catching the last light of the string lamps. Lily broke from the frozen circle, her breath catching as she ran across the grass, the album clutched like a treasure.
Grandpa, please don't leave like this.
She has Helen's spirit.
Jack paused, his weathered hand reaching back to squeeze Lily's. No words passed, but the grip said everything.
I won't let them forget. I promise.
He released her hand and pushed open the old gate, its hinges groaning a final goodbye. The gate clicked shut behind him, and his figure dissolved into the night. Lily stood motionless, the album pressed to her heart, her shoulders shaking. The family behind her remained frozen in their guilt. The night swallowed the sound of her quiet sobs, leaving only the soft rustle of the album pages in the wind. Back at the tent, the family slowly stirred from their frozen state, the weight of the silence pressing them into the damp grass. Michael's gaze fell on a single photograph lying face up on the table, the faded image of Jack holding him as a newborn.
He held me, and I stood there while she...
A sob broke from his chest, raw and unguarded, as the photo trembled in his hands. Evelyn buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking in silent, uncontrollable grief. Frank stood motionless, his beer forgotten on the grass, his eyes hollow with regret. Charlotte remained on the bench, her face buried, invisible to the family that had once been hers. One by one, the string lights flickered and died, leaving only the pale glow of the moon. In the dim light, the wedding photograph of Jack and Helen remained, a silent witness to a love that built a family. The reunion was over, but the truth would live in those photographs forever.